This webinar is about a relatively limited subject among the many subjects related to leveraging. It's about how to get and organize and get going with the best possible, most accessible in most cases, source of funding for leveraging activities, and that is weatherization program funds. Before I get into the subject, of course, I want to introduce myself, and one of my jobs is managing economic opportunity studies, and EOS's job is to support community action programs and other local weatherization agencies and their partners. And in DOE, our funds have let us expand our staff and our waste resources and soon the different ways we can access them that are all designed to use the experience from leveraging in many years in many places to help you get a boost and start ahead of the game on new leveraging partnerships, new resource acquisition. And there's no time like the present. Lisa Kiesecker is known to many of you because of her long connection or service to the state of West Virginia weatherization program. In West Virginia, among her duties, she provided the technical support to the Community Action Association for all the intervention-related and program development-related activities they had that brought them to the Utility Commission and ended up winning them millions of leverage programs over the years she was working with them. And Lisa's a national trainer. You know her from NASCASP and NCAF, DOE conferences where she's trained on delivering public information, on leveraging planning and techniques. Now she's in her own consulting business at Energy Design and Services, so we're really flattered and pleased she's with us to help present this. So on the next slide, I want to take a minute. When we did this yesterday, a very fair question was asked, which is, how are you defining leveraging? And we use that word all the time. It's overused. We're using it to say that when you are approaching funders, people with resources, investors, you're coming to offer value. You are providing them leverage because you have assets that can work toward the goals of the funders that you're approaching, or investors if it's a utility. This is not like some other activities of your organization that are coming for a charitable donation or some kind of goodwill. You are offering value to attract complementary resources. And that makes a different kind of partnership than some of the other things that community action weatherization agencies engage in to carry out their missions. Leveraging is a verb. It's a set of activities that over time are going to work, hopefully going to work, to persuade partners, to craft the terms of a deal, and then to make sure that each side, including yours, delivers on the promised results. This takes persistent, flexible people working, representing all partners, but on the weatherization side, very persistent people. And it will take some experts that may require some additional funding. All of those take dollars. So when we're talking about getting the weatherization program dollars for leveraging, we're obviously not talking about using it for some other weatherization delivery use. It's for the staff or consultants or activities like possibly travel or research or whatever that are going to make the deals happen. So the next slide is about how to access, what the terms are that allow you to access the federal weatherization funds. Many years ago, we got a terrific provision into the statute of the weatherization itself. And the statute, like the rules, of course, say that you can use up to 15% of the program money, not TNTA, not admin, the program money, to engage in a leveraging activity. And there's a fair amount of language describing how to use it and what it is. The language is in one of the handouts that we provided for you to download along with this. It has all of the relevant statute provisions, the regulation that says how a state can use leveraged funds and what they're allowable for. I picked this to put on the slide because it shows you how flexible this money can be. It's got a list of concrete things: leveraging meetings, preparing technical briefs, those could be experts as well. And then this wonderful word, facilitating voluntary match funds. So facilitating covers all kinds of things. You can have people working using techniques and methods and initiatives that perhaps no one else has dreamed of yet, as long as it's facilitating these voluntary match funds. What's more, these projects can be as long as 3 years. You could get funding in a 1 year's plan that was big enough to last 3 years. You could fund phase 1 in 1 year's plan and hope there'd be funding next year to do phase 2 and 3. And the department allows renewals of activities that have been successful before. So you have in your handouts also extracts that we took from current or recent state plans for leveraging that have been approved by DOE. I think there's at least one in there that's a 2011 plan, and I think it's approved, but it's the same language as in previous years that was approved. So you'll see a variety of approaches. You'll also see that these are pretty short. These are simple descriptions, and they don't go into all the details. And DOE tends to think all of those that are there are within the acceptable range of activities. The only proviso in the regulation that's important as a limit is if what you're doing does not produce at least as much money in leveraged funds as were invested in the leveraging activities, you've got to stop doing it, which seems eminently reasonable. And there's no penalty. It's not unallowable funds. You just can't keep beating your head against a wall for more than 3 years if you're not taking the right approach. But a state could take a different approach for the next 3 years. The important thing, and the reason we're talking about this now, is on the next slide, the fact that you would usually be out of time if we were talking about this in any other January. But this year is different. And because leveraging is a significant activity that needs to be in a state's budget for the approved program plan, you need to have worked out whatever it is with your state to get a budget for a leveraging activity going. This year, the 2011 plans that were probably approved last year, as far as I know they all were, have to be rewritten. And my expertise here is limited to the presentation that DOE has made. It's on WAPTAC, and yesterday I think NCAF sent out a plain English explanation that may have only made it worse to explain. One of the important facts, though, is that every PY 2011 plan that is still going to be in effect during program year 2012. Okay, so any state spending 2011 money between April 1st of 2012 or whatever their start date is for the rest of the program year will have to rewrite the 2011 plan. That is a huge opportunity if your plan didn't have a leveraging activity in it to reopen that. If there, now what I'm about to say is not stamped with approval by DOE, but it is very likely that if the state and the local agencies are in a consensus about what a leveraging activity is going to be, that's not a major change that requires public hearing. It's just a tweak. There are reasons to try and not delay new plans, but I'm sure that you can figure something out that isn't going to cause a stir and require a public hearing that's more than pro forma anyway. For the very few states that won't be spending PY 2011 money after April 1st, there will be a program year 2012 plan allocated by a new one-time DOE formula. So that's another opportunity. Either way, each state has an opportunity at a new state plan. And usually you've got, as I just mentioned, for April 1 start date, plans would have to have a public hearing in January and be done. The department has said these rewrites, we'll tell you more about them soon, maybe February, probably March. So you don't need to work out every detail for a state plan, as you can tell by looking at our set of model state plans. You will have to make, if you haven't been doing the leveraging activity before, you will have to make some arrangements with your state that make everyone comfortable about what the money is going to be used for and what the tasks are going to be that it supports and what organization is going to be managing that money and being accountable to the state for the money. There are reports required quarterly to DOE, I think it's quarterly, in the PAGE system. So this is DOE money and it's tracked. If it's your first time, if the state has never supported a leveraging activity before, or no other funds have supported a leveraging activity that the state buys into, you may have to start small, or better yet, you might have a strong 3-year budget, but that first phase could have a checkpoint at which everybody stops to make sure that mutual goals are being met. And it is not only the state that has to be in agreement with your plan, but other local agencies, both because that makes for a smooth plan process, but because if you haven't got close to unanimity on what kind of money and what kind of terms are desirable for leverage projects, you can't deliver and perform them when they're won. It's not all that easy sometimes to get all local agencies to agree on what the priorities are, what ought to be the first thing to leverage and who ought to be approached. And there's often a concern about whether the leveraging people, staff, there might be one person or 2 or 3, are representing everybody's local interest. And that can be, it has been problematic in states where there'll be a rate case from a utility that covers a third of the state, and it's important to win a program there, but nobody else has one. The weatherization agencies whose utilities are not being approached can worry about whether they're going to get their fair share in the end. It's a good reason to have a 3-year plan and a constant presence, but think about those issues and what makes a good deal for everybody. The other thing I wanted to just say from the experience of looking at these for 20 years is that it's rare that significant, sustainable, long-term stream of leverage resources comes as the result of an individual agency. It might be possible for a very strong and very dominant agency in a state to win a deal for everybody or to win a deal that covers its big service area. But on the whole, this requires a network locally to be bought in and patient and investing in the venture capital, essentially, is this weatherization leveraging money, and putting this venture capital and time into the eventual payoff. So it's a better idea for an association or a lead agency in concert with all or most agencies to be working on this in a coordinated good faith effort, and to make sure that what they're going to do is neither a burden or an embarrassment to state offices that are getting progressively more stretched thin as the economy tests their capacities. Now, I'm going to take any questions you think are important right here, and then Lisa's going to talk about what happens when you do get an agreement to get some money in the state budget. And that is intended to both alert you to the scope of the activity you should look to fund, to the duration of the activity you should look to fund, and to how different it is from the quick agreements you may wish to pull together before you have a new state plan or a revised state plan being considered. Okay, I'm trying to figure out if I can see